Now we've talked quite a bit about point slope form, what it's good for, and how we can kind of write an equation in point slope form when given the point and the slope. Well, let's go ahead and take an equation that's already in point slope form and graph the line. So as a reminder, the two things that we generally need to graph a line are directions, which is of course our slope, and we need a starting point. In point slope form, we're already given both those things. So first off, the slope is just this coefficient here, so that's easy. Now the point is a little bit more difficult to find. In the previous video, I explained this in a little bit more depth, but this part right here, the x plus 1, is really just the horizontal component of my slope. And what we found is that we want to know when or what x value makes that 0. And then what we're basically doing is starting at the point in point slope form and then just not going anywhere. So it leaves us at the location we're looking for. Again, I know that's a little abstract, but I'm going to keep with it because it's an important concept. And then same thing here. This is the vertical distance of my slope. And again, I just want to know when that's equal to 0. And that gives me my point, -1, 5. Now I have both those things, and so I can graph my line. So the point, -1, 5, is right about there. And then I'm going to use the slope, which is the change in y over the change in x, to find additional points to graph. I'm going to kind of get off the graph here if I continue in that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and write a different variation of the same slope, and that is -3 over -2. That's of course still positive because a negative over a negative is positive. So I can go in the reverse direction where I have a little more space based off the graph I already have here. Down 3 and now to the left 2. And I have 3 points. They seem to all be in a straight line, so I'm going to go ahead and graph that out. Now at this point, I've already accomplished what I set out to in this video, and that is shown you how to take a line that's in slope or in point slope form and graph it. However, I want to take a moment to see if I can, again, reinforce that idea of why I'm setting that horizontal and vertical component to 0 to find the point in point slope form. So the idea of slope is that it takes you from any point on the line to another point. So let's say that I didn't quite yet know that this point was -1, 5. Well, what I could do is I know that this piece right here is really just the change in y, and I showed you that in a previous video. So I know that this piece right here is y minus 5. Okay? And I know that this piece right here is really just change in x from my slope formula. So this part right here is really just x plus 1. And so the idea is that if this part, the -1, 5, is the point from the point slope form, then I'm already located right here. That's my starting point, right? If I'm already at -1, 5, the point in point slope form, then I don't really want to travel anywhere. I want this component here to just be 0. Okay, and that's where this came from. And by the same token, I don't want to travel to the right at all either, so I just want this x plus 1 to be 0. And again, that's where this part came from. Now here is where I'm hoping that seeing it again and just kind of thinking of slope as directions, and we can always choose not to move if we want to, we'll start to solidify that idea of why we're setting those things equal to 0 to find that point in point slope form.